there's a possibility of that, but you know, I want to check that out. I wanna take that as much as I can. I wanna make it exciting as much as I can. So you know, that's the plan. That's the plan.
Last night we talked, and you said that you were gonna come here and see if he's gonna hand in the Bada contract. Did they do that yet?
Not yet. That's why ultimately today needs to be signed. It needs to be signed. Past today, I'm done playing their game.
If you won't sign it, there's no fight?
There's no fight. I'm done playing their games. You know, I gave them. They demanded me to fight with them. I gave them that demand. They didn't. You know, they called themselves out by taking a test. They said they'll take the test. It's a BS test. Okay, take the test. So we agreed upon it. And now that we're here, they're trying to play this game, that game. You know, it's a simple thing. Either you sign it and prove that you're clean, or not sign it and play games thinking that I'm going to give you more chances. So, you know, take it or leave it.
Nonito, he says he already signed. You didn't sign. That's what he said.
The Bada. Bada is a 24/365, meaning that I'm always signed. Meaning that every day they can test me. You get what I'm saying? It's the contract. Until that he signs that Bada, then I will sign the fight. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's up to him to make that fight happen.
Why do you think they're stalling?
They're stalling, you know. I mean, there's a lot of speculation. Maybe they're stalling to clean themselves out, or they're stalling to play this game. You know, all merely speculation, because you know it's nothing is for sure what's going on. But I know that they're playing games, and I'm not playing games. You know, I wanted to make the Mars fight happen. This fight, they didn't make it happen. Now we got Rigondeaux and they're playing games. You know, I don't need this.
I know the testing is voluntary. You don't require your opponents normally to take the test. In the future, as you're moving up in weight, do you think that maybe you should employ like a Floyd Mayweather policy where everyone should, so as to not only...
I think so. I believe that it's good for boxing at this level. Now that everybody's getting caught from different sports, you know, iconic guys, you know, who are doing it. I mean, I think that it's a must for a big fight, you know, and from this point on, I do want to make that a mandatory for guys that I fight. I mean, I think, you know, not that I'm doubting them, but because, you know, I believe that it's good for the world of boxing. It's good and it's encouraging to other fighters.
Nonito, with the success of your fellow countryman Manny Pacquiao, what kind of pressure does that put on you to perform well?
You know, I've been in this game for quite a while, so there's really no pressure in terms of you know, just in my head. You know, as long as I do my best, I think that I can lift my head high. Just doing everything that I can. You know, there's really no pressure, but just you know, trying to get the win. We work hard for it, and we just leave it up in the ring.
The closest you've fought in the tri-state area has been Connecticut, but now you'll be fighting in Manhattan. What's it going to be like for you?
Well, actually, I fought at the theater here, Madison Square Garden, and you know, that was exciting. But again, I had an unfinished business because I felt like the crowd wasn't, you know, they didn't enjoy the fight, and I'm here to entertain them. I want them to have a good fight. You know, I want them to have an exciting fight, and I want to do that.
What do you know about your opponent, and what do you think the difference is going to be in this fight?
I don't know much about my opponent right now. I haven't really seen him fight. There's only one fight that I've seen, and the second fight, which was the second day, 2 days ago. 2 days ago, I saw one of his fights. So I don't really know much of his opponent, but once this finalized, then I will study him and I will know everything about him.
You talked about the testing, issues with that. How much of a distraction could that be leading up to this fight?
There's no distraction, you know. I really just go with the flow. I mean, you know, if they sign now, there's really no distraction going forward. You know, I've done tests like 4 or 6 times, you know, 6 times last year, you know, and then I'm used to that.
What will you have to do in order to come out of this fight and win?
Work hard, confident. In my confidence in myself, you know, I'm gonna pull out speed, power, and everything that I can that I'm gifted with, you know. So, but definitely work hard.
And Nonito, are you aware that the last time there was a fight here in New York and there was an issue related to drug testing and everything, that they allowed Eric Morales to basically test until he got it right? I mean, does it concern you that the commission may not, even though you may require the testing commission may not be on board with accepting the validity of the answers?
Well, at least everybody knows, you know, but I think VADA is a really, you know, they test for everything. Mm-hmm. So there's no way of escaping. If it's in your system, it will be in your system. Again, you know, that is the jurisdiction of the New York Commission. And you know, we pretty much just give it. I mean, to me, you know, I always believe that cheaters should be punished. But at the same time, I want to challenge myself by beating a cheater.
Donaire, in the past, you've said that the VADA testing was something for yourself, and you've never imposed it on any of your opponents. Why are you imposing it on Guillermo Rigondeaux?
Well, they called themselves out. They said, "Oh, that's a BS testing. We don't care about that. We'll take anything, any kind of testing that you want, as long as you fight me. I fight you. I'm gonna fight you. So grant me what you said that you will do." And they called themselves out for that. And therefore, you know what? We negotiated, and that was there.
So this is a stipulation now in the contract that he must do the testing.
Yes, it was. You know, in order for him, they demanded from me, but they called themselves out to do that. So now that you know, I put that in the contract, we negotiated and we agreed upon it, then it shall be in the contract.
Nonito, ESPN. How do you feel about fighting Rigondeaux?
Good. I feel great. You know, I think that it's a very interesting fight. It's an exciting fight, but you know, we're ready for it.
What happened with Abner Mares?
Well, that's definitely the promoter's thing. You know, Oscar said they sent $3 million. $3 million for what? You know, $3 million to pay me, $3 million to do this, to do that, and you're gonna show everybody that you're paying me $3 million for what? You know, it doesn't make sense. You know, contracts are put aside, and besides, the networks are not gonna pay little guys that amount of money. We all know that. I'm not getting that much amount of money fighting Rigondeaux. Both of our money put together.
Anything from Rigondeaux that might give you complications because of his style?
He's a very intelligent guy, and that's pretty much it. You know, he has a decent power, but again, a lot of the guys that he fought are in front of him. So, you know, that's the difficulty that he has to face with me. But again, you know, he's gifted with great decent speed, great power, and you know, and he's intelligent. So
you mentioned that you have a plan if he moves a lot. If he try to run.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's always a plan. I've learned with Narvaez fight. I've learned with Matebula. I've learned with Nishioka and all the previous fights, and you know, I've become more smarter throughout. And I think that I can. I know that I can take him down.
And what about all the ordeal about signing the contract and the testing and all that? What can you tell me about that?
It needs to be signed. You know, they're playing games with me. They're making it hard for me. You know, it needs to be signed. You know, I'm not gonna play their games. You know, it's a yes or no. You know, if you have nothing to hide, you know, if you said that you'll do this test on public, on the record, that you'll do this test, then there shouldn't be any problem for you to sign this contract. Now you're playing games with me, and I'm done with this game. You sign it or not. Today it needs to happen, and if not, I'm out.
Should you come up victorious? Abner Mares or come up in weight?
I want to fight Abner. You know, when they ask me who is left at 122, I want to fight Rigondeaux and Abner. You know, we tried to negotiate with Abner, it didn't happen. You know, Abner's getting fooled by his promoter. People are saying this, saying that. His promoter is saying this. You know, I haven't seen anything.
And feelings about fighting in New York?
It's great. It's great. New York is amazing. You know, and it's always fast paced.
Even with clean drug tests, the allegations still exist. Arce is now saying that Manny Pacquiao must have been on something.
Well, there's always an allegation for everything. I mean, they say the same thing with Marquez. They say with this, you know. I mean, you know, the body type, the body that he came in the fight compared to when he fought Mayweather. You know, there's just a lot of allegation. You know, with Manny, they're saying that this and this because he's moving up in weight, or this guy and that guy. You know, I mean, there's to me, you know, that's not me. You know, it's not me. People have their own virtue, their own theory in life, and their own theory in boxing. I love the sport of boxing. it made me who I am. It gave me everything that I have. And the least that I can do is to show that, it's an amazing sport. And by doing so, I want to support it by doing this that I'm doing with VADA.
Donaire, in regards to the contract with Golden Boys,
away because your nose is right in the shot of everything.
in regards to the contract from Oscar De La Hoya, why does it matter to you where the $3 million comes from, as long as the contract stipulates that you get paid $3 million?
Where it's coming from?
I mean, it could be from sponsors. It could be some money from the site fee. It could be from the
Well,
network.
I had asked them to send it to my manager. They never sent it to my manager. I had asked them to send it to me, so I would change it myself. They never send it to me. So what can I say?
There was a contract floating around that got
But do you
posted on
understand that
Boxing.
it's
Did you
public?
see it?
It's public.
No, I understand. But did you see the contract?
Yeah, but did you read the contract, the text of the contract? That means if I do fight them, at any moment in time, they can postpone without penalty. What am I supposed to do? Sit down for 9 months? They want my date. They want my HBO date. What am I gonna do? Sit around, wait for them until they say, oh, you know what? We're gonna postpone it 3 more months. You know what? We'll cancel it. So what am I gonna say? I told them, send it to me, send it to my manager. We'll change all that up. I haven't seen anything. They want to play this game. That's why I said, you know what? If you guys want to make this fight happen, I want to make this fight happen.
What do you feel would be different after this fight, if you get past this fight, assuming that you do? You still want Mars. What do you think would be different in the negotiations? Would you attempt to start the negotiations instead of waiting for Oscar De La Hoya to do it in social media, to post the contract on boxing websites? Would you send Cameron Duncan to De La Hoya and Richard Schaefer to get this fight done for the fans?
Well, the thing is, a lot of people don't understand that, it comes up to the network, it comes up to the promoters. I mean, there was a time when I didn't fight for a year because the promoter didn't like me. You know what I'm saying? So back, so what am I supposed to do? Sit down? Sometimes you just gotta be like, hey, you know what? You work well. I'm happy with where I'm at because I'm getting fights, and that's what it's all about. One way or another, I give my names of the guys I fight. I want to fight. Last year, I actually give the name for Abner and Rigondeaux. But mostly with Abner, we want to make the fight with Abner. That's where the negotiation started. They said they'll make it happen. They'll make it happen. But again, there's feud between the two bodies.
In the past, when people would mention Rigondeaux as a potential opponent for you, you would say that he needed more fights. He needed to get recognized.
I still think the same way till this day. But they called me out. You know what? They want to make the fight happen. Let's make the fight happen.
So what's the difference between Guillermo Rigondeaux, who's the WBA champion, and Jeffrey Matabula, who was the IBF champion that was unknown, and his only fight was against Celestino Caballero?
Just because you're unknown doesn't mean you're nobody. I was unknown when I beat Darchinyan. Nobody knew who I was. I thought that Matabula was going to give me a hell of a trouble because he was tall. And I can still say at this time he can outbox a lot of the world champions of this weight class.
But what was the difference between him and Rigondeaux in terms of popularity?
Well, popularity, the thing is, at that time, the network were gearing for Rigondeaux. Now with Matabula, it was easier to make fights because we didn't, they weren't asking for a whole world. As of these guys, they think they're the ish. So they're going to ask for more. He's getting paid more than he's ever getting paid in his life. And that's the only reason why fights don't happen, because these guys try to tend to price themselves beyond what they're supposed to get.
How bad is it for boxing? You got you and Maris can't get it on.
It's unfortunate because I know Maris wants to fight me, and he knows that I want to fight him. And the crowd and the fans, the boxing fans, are the ones that are suffering. The ones that are getting the end of it. And that's unfortunate because they know I want to fight him. He knows that I want to, At this time, as long as me and Mars can just keep pushing it, we just got to put a pressure with the promoter, and we're hoping that will happen. But again, you see a Manny Pacquiao kind of Mayweather thing where Well, not the fighters with Manny Pacquiao and Mayweather. They're both like playing their high power persona. But me and Mars, we just kind of want to fight, you know. And it's the promoters that's playing the high power part.
How important is it to you to get the chance to fight him?
Well, for me, you know, there's a lot of great fighters out there, and I would go for them. But to me, he's one of the guys that I set my eyes on, and when I do set my eyes on somebody, I want to fight that person. Like when I set my eye on Nishioka, you know, I thought it was the best in that division. And to be honest with you, last year, as much as it looked easy in the fight, that was the hardest fight because I had to pull everything off put everything off my pocket. You know, I have to bring all my cards in the fight. I had to set them up. I had to use my speed. I had to do this. I had to do that. And I was able to get them in the later rounds, but because I had to put everything together.
Then you followed it up with the Arce fight where you had command and you went through. That one, the whole build-up, there's no real animosity. It's a buddy of yours. Does everything that's going on with this and the drug test, does that add more animosity,
There is definitely a lot of that. It's funny because it's not even Rigondeaux who's doing that. You know, I talk to the guy who respects me. Not talk to the guy, but he's in front of me. He gives me a handshake. He's not saying anything. He's not mean mugging me. But funny, when we're walking in the hallway, these guys are like looking at me, looking down on me, and mean mugging me. I'm like, dude, you're not even fighting. Chill the fuck down. Pardon my language, you know. So you know, it's funny because all this crap talking that's coming from Rigondeaux is not coming from Rigondeaux. It's from all these people.
Nonito, you're fighting Guillermo Rigondeaux, but half these questions, or more than half these questions, have been about abnormalities or drug testing. Does that bother you?
No. I'm here to answer every question, you know. That's why I did the VADA testing 24/7, 365, because I ain't got nothing to hide.
No, I'm saying, but wouldn't you rather just be talking about this fight than a fight that's
everybody, you know, I'm always accepting in everything, you know. Everybody's always entitled to their opinion and their questions, and I'm more than willing to answer every question that they have, and it's fun, you know. It's fun what they have to say.
And in some regards, do you believe that this maybe is a tougher test than Maris because of the different style that Rigondeaux, the amateur experience that he brings to the table?
I don't think any amateur experience will be much of a difference for me. I mean, he's naturally talented in the boxing world, and that's good for me. I like that, you know. But Maris is a one-sided guy. As of this guy, he knows how to survive, you know.
The fact that he's been rocked a few times, Rigondeaux, he was dropped, I believe, by Marroquin a couple fights ago. Your power, obviously, everyone knows about it. You feel this is a guy that you can get out of there?
Well, one thing that a lot of fighters know is that one punch from me can cost them the fight. So he's wary of that. He's aware of that.
And one last question. Before Rigondeaux signed or agreed to this, I know he hasn't signed yet, the name Darchinyan was probably maybe plan B. Were you excited about that opportunity?
You know, with Darchinyan, he gave me an opportunity. I will give him that opportunity, you know. And the funny thing is, we were supposed to fight, and I still remember this date because I was really disappointed. August 21, 2009, or 2009, 2010. 2009, right? We signed the contract. The next day, he said he's not fighting me. You know, and that was 3 months. I mean, if you look at the internet, it says that, you know, that, oh, we didn't sign a contract, but the fight was 3 months, you know, still. So, you know, I don't know what's going on. I mean, Darchinyan he has his mouthpiece on, and he's always been that way. But, you know, he just wants that fight, and I'll give him that opportunity.